Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about the new movie, Knox Goes Away. If you end up enjoying this video, please consider liking and subscribing. That way I don't develop dementia and forget that I made it. Honestly, I wasn't gonna go watch this movie, but then it was the only ad that was on the YouTube videos that I was watching for about 4 days straight, and I could not get rid of it. The synopsis is as follows. Diagnosed with a rapidly evolving form of dementia, a contract killer gets the chance to redeem himself by saving the life of his estranged son. So without further ado, let's get into 6 things that make a movie great. 1. The plot. Pretty early on in this movie, Knox, played by Michael Keaton, goes to a doctor and finds out that he doesn't have dementia, but it's something worse that causes him to rapidly devolve faster. This causes an accident to happen on one of his contracts and makes him realize that he has to get out of the game. When all of a sudden his son, played by James Marsden, shows up at his house covered in blood, saying that he's killed a man and he needs his dad's help. What follows is a film about Knox slowly losing his mind to this form of dementia, while also trying to exonerate his son from what he's done. Honestly, as a premise, that movie does not sound bad. There is very, very little action or suspense in this movie. It is extremely slow, to the point where it's much more of a drama than it is an action or thriller. But the audience is trying to figure out what this plan to save his son is, while Knox is, because he can't remember what he came up with in the first place. And I kind of like the idea of that concept, but by the end of the movie, I was just tired. I think one of the main issues that the plot and storytelling had as well is that you kind of felt split between Knox with his son and the contract killers and him struggling with dementia, and the police force trying to figure out who's behind these murders and what's going on. But instead of those two arenas and timelines or whatever syncing up, the cops are like unreasonably behind it until a certain point in the movie when they need to be on the case. And it felt really disjointed. The beginning of the movie was okay, the end of the movie was definitely the best part, but the middle was so boring and confusing and slow that the payoff at the end wasn't really as satisfying as I thought it might be. So for me, plot gets a 50-50. 2 is family friendliness. Knox Goes Away is rated R. There's a mild to moderate bit of profanity, a couple short scenes of graphic violence, and a couple scenes of very brief nudity or sensuality with all the vital parts covered. In addition to that, the content and story of this movie is actually very dark, and some of the content that you are subjecting yourself to is disturbing. So for me, family friendliness gets a thumbs down. 3 is acting in the script. I really enjoy Michael Keaton as an actor, and I've loved a lot of different movies that he's been a part of. His acting performance in this movie was by far the best, and even in the midst of the slower, confusing parts of the film, he acted the part of someone suffering from dementia very well. Everybody else in the movie was okay, and then there was Susie Nakamura. Ugh. She's the police officer who's in charge of going after this case, and the way they wrote her character is just terrible. Every line of dialogue is annoying or cringy. She's constantly trying to belittle her male employees who are written very dumb as well. And it felt really out of place in this movie. And that just contributed to the convoluted feeling that the film had. So for me, acting and script get a 50-50. 4 is character development. The character you become closest with is Knox. However, there isn't much character development here. You get to see his character progress, and as he makes connections again with his son, but with him struggling with dementia, you don't find out much about who he was or what he was doing or the kind of person he is, other than the fact that he just is a killer. Some of the moments of conversation between him and his son are the best parts of the movie, but it just contributes to character progression, not depth. So for me, character development gets a thumbs down. 5 is visuals and CGI. I didn't see any CGI and the visuals were okay. When Knox is struggling with his moments of dementia, sometimes the screen blurs, sometimes it goes black, which showed what it wanted to during the film, but it wasn't anything special. I did, however, really enjoy the audio of this movie. Whether it was a silenced gunshot or a punch landing, the effect sound was just very satisfying and very well done. So for me, visuals and CGI get a thumbs up. And 6 is rewatchability. Knox Goes Away clocks in at 1 hour and 54 minutes long. And because this was not an action or thriller movie, but more of a slow drama, this movie felt really long and like it was being dragged out. I left the theater feeling exhausted after watching this movie and not entertained that much. So while I like Michael Keaton and I know that he directed this movie, I will not be watching it again. So for me, maybe rewatchability gets a thumbs down. With all these areas considered, I have to give Knox Goes Away a 4.5 out of 10. I enjoyed the concept of this movie, and Michael Keaton had a really good acting performance, along with some pretty satisfying audio during the brief action sequences. But the storytelling in this movie was very convoluted, some of the acting and script was really poor, and the continual pacing issues for most of this movie made it pretty boring to watch. So with all that in mind, I probably wouldn't spend my money going to watch Knox Goes Away in movie theaters. But if you like Michael Keaton and you don't mind a slower drama film, you might check it out when it gets to streaming platforms. Thank you so much for watching. If you've seen Knox Goes Away, please let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. As always, I appreciate your love and support, and I'll catch you guys and gals in the next one.